U.S. EPA have established what they call National Ambient Air Quality Standards, and they're the standards that all states must meet to make sure that all of us breathe clean air and don't have problems. Now the states can implement what they call a State Implementation Plan, or SIP. It's a state-specific plan to get to these levels that the EPA has mandated. And they typically focus on two areas: stationary sources, things like power plants or restaurants or dry cleaners or factories, and then mobile sources. And in the state of California, they've implemented a program called the California Low Emission Vehicle, or LED program, which is specifically focused on automobiles, because we are one of the bigger contributors to this whole issue. So what is the California Low Emission Vehicle program really all about? Well, it addresses three aspects. The first thing it addresses is tailpipe emissions, and there's three primary emissions we talk about. Hydrocarbons, unburned fuel. Sometimes they talk about THC, total hydrocarbon, non-methane. Methane is not that reactive, so sometimes they remove that. And they got this thing that California likes, they call NMOG. It stands for non-methane organic gas. It's essentially non-methane hydrocarbons plus other organic emissions like aldehydes, etc. The other thing we worry about is carbon monoxide, and then this thing we call nitrogen oxides, or which we call NOx or NOx. Talk a lot about NOx. And again, the hydrocarbons and the NOx, as it gets in the air, it helps form smog and ozone, so we really like to control those. The other part is the evaporative emissions that come off your car. And we'll talk about different sources. They're mostly hydrocarbon-based, come off your tires. You know that new car smell that you have? Hydrocarbons. And the last is onboard diagnostics, and this is the computer continually checks the emission system, the evaporative emission, and the tailpipe emission system to make sure everything's working right. If it doesn't, you get this little light that comes on in your dashboard called, it says, go check your engine, take it into your dealership. And we like to avoid having that happen by making sure that it's robust. Sometimes there's confusion between what a PZEV and a HEV or a hybrid, so I'd just like to clarify for a minute. The California Low Emission Program, they established all these cool acronyms, just I think to confuse us all. They have something called a TLEV, which stands for a Transitional Low Emission Vehicle, a LEV, a Low Emission Vehicle, a ULEV, an Ultra Low Emission Vehicle, and then a SULEV, a Super Ultra Low Emission Vehicle. And the stringency increases as you go down, or the emissions decrease as you go down. And actually, they started the California Low Emission Program in 1993. It was called LEV 1 about 2000. In 2000, they modified it, and it's now called LEV 2. So sometimes you'll see SULEV 1 or SULEV 2 or ULEV 1 and ULEV 2. Partial Zero Emission Vehicle meets two criteria. One, it meets SULEV tailpipe, which is right now the lowest level, and it has a zero evaporative emission requirement. I'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a minute. Also, we have to meet those requirements for 15 years and 150,000 miles. A hybrid electric vehicle is a vehicle that's powered by a gasoline engine, but also has an electric motor in it. Typically has a regenerative braking, so when you step on the brakes, that energy is absorbed back into the electric motor and recharges the battery, and that's why you get the fuel economy benefit. Hybrid doesn't have to be certified to PZEV emission levels. So just because it's a hybrid, it may or may not be a PZEV. Fortunately, our current hybrid products, which are the Mariner and the Escape, both are certified to the California PZEV standard.